Hey guys, welcome back. Pretty excited today. Yesterday I got my hand on a hold of the new Traptrix structure deck. Beware of Traptrix. Managed to get three of it, and finally, after months of waiting and a little bit of playtesting here and there, I finally got the decks. Made the completed my deck in real life. If you know, a couple months ago I kind of made a sort of an in-depth video on Traptrix. Now that video was more or less just some ideas and routes you can go about. And me personally, I still have a lot to learn about the deck and its interaction, its combo lines, things like that. So this particular deck, I've only managed to test play against my friends a few times. I haven't gone out to any locals. I haven't done anything big with it. So um, this video is just to give you a general idea of maybe some cards to play, some things to try out. And right now, we're kind of at the stage, or at least me personally, I'm at the stage where I'm kind of throwing darts at the board and seeing what sticks, and seeing what can work for the deck, and um, the ratios and cards that you may want to see in your opening hands and cards that you probably don't want to open up with, and more or less it's kind of an experiment. Obviously, in terms of a trap deck, I think Labyrinth is a better deck, and ironically, I do have a Labyrinth um, monster here, but ignore that for now. I think Labyrinth as a deck is probably better. I think they have a easier game plan than a Traptrix deck does. Their boss monster, being this chick right here, the Lady Labyrinth of the Silver Castle, is a very good boss monster, and their deck can consistently get out their boss monster really easily, and she's hard to answer. And I think their traps overall are a little bit more powerful, kind of like Eldritch, where the Golden Land cards and stuff like that, they brought out their boss monster, the Golden Lord, really easily, recycled him multiple times, and just overall very powerful strategy. But obviously, I like Traptrix. I like the archetype also, and I decided to go for Traptrix for this particular, um, I guess, season or particular moment in time. And especially since Labyrinth is also really expensive right now to buy into. I think Welcome to Labyrinth or Big Labyrinth, one of those trap cards, and one of their other monsters are like $40 each, so it's a little hard to buy into. Where Traptrix, you just need to buy three structure decks and a couple of Exceed monsters, and you could have yourself a pretty nice deck for locals and maybe even some regional events. Really cheap deck to build. I would say you could probably spend about maybe $10 on the structure decks, about $10 each, so about $30 for structure decks, and maybe about another $20-$30, maybe even $50 on the extra deck, and then you have a very comparable deck. So I mentioned in the other video, what I feel like Traptrix lacks is a decent boss monster. So like Labyrinth and Eldritch, they have those boss monsters built into their deck. For Traptrix, all of our monsters are really weak. They're level 4. They don't really do anything on their own. They don't really pose a threat. It's our extra deck that's a toolbox. That's the strong thing about Traptrix, is that our extra deck is a toolbox, but it requires bodies on the board. And if our opponent has something that locks us out of our extra deck, the deck can struggle a little bit in that sense because our monsters are pretty weak. Our strongest monster I think is like 1700, which is Diania, and she alone isn't gonna be able to win you the game. Our traps are a little weak also because a lot of them are conditional. Conditional in sense of when they can be used and what they can hit, versus they're not very um, uh, they're not like a solemn judgment or a solemn strike where you can kind of just use them whenever you want to, or like just easy chainable removal. But it's nice that the monsters do search for those specific traps, and they do create a bit of card advantage. And the deck itself right now, pure Traptrix, I think is sort of the way to go. I don't know if you can really mix in any archetype with the banning of Scythe. The artifact engine is not very strong in the deck, and the artifact engine kind of cloggy, kind of slow. Fire Hand, Ice Hand. Those were great back then. Too slow for today's format. Really won't really provide much power to the deck. Another popular one was let's see, it was Artifact Hands, Traptrix. Well, that was Hat, but in the structure deck you also have Mech Knights. Mech Knights are powerful. They're nice in the sense that they do um, bring a bit of oof to the deck. They bring, in the sense that the monsters are like 2,500 attackers. They sort of self-replenish themselves. So I think Mech Knight is okay to play in the deck, but they are also kind of weak in the sense that they don't really help you turn your extra deck into a utility because they're level 7, and it's a little awkward when most of your monsters are level 4 and none of your monsters are tuners, not that I know, so they don't really sort of provide that synergy that you're really looking for into being able to use the bodies that you're getting off of the Mech Knights, and that synchroing or exceeding or even linking away with the Mech Knights is a little difficult also. Um, but the Mech Knights are nice in that they are big beaters, but um, those archetypes I think just don't provide enough for the deck itself. I think Labyrinth is probably the best pair to go with Traptrix. In this particular deck, or in this particular case, the only Labyrinth card I have is the Lady, and she just essentially just kind of provides a bit of a backbone to the strategy and a bit of a card that your opponent kind of has to answer, which is kind of nice. And she's worked pretty well as a creature in the deck. There's not much you really have to um, do to kind of accommodate her, and she's kind of nice in that sense. All right, so let's go through the deck profile. Let's take a look at some of the cards. I'll explain to you some of the selections. So this video might run a little long, as most of my deck profile videos. So if you want to kind of skip around, that's fine. I think I might put a deck list or something down in the description later. But for now, just hang on and go for a ride here. All right, so we'll start off with the two Lady Labyrinth here. So in my testing, I found that yeah, she's actually nice. She can be a little weird to use sometimes. You do have to be kind of knowledgeable in the game to kind of use her effectively. I'm still kind of inexperienced, honestly, when it comes to using Labyrinth cards. But what I like about her is that if you go second, for example, and you impermanence someone, you can wait until the end of their turn and then you can special summon her. You don't have to summon her right away when you're resolving impermanence. Her effect to summon herself, as long as you activate a trap card this turn, you can then summon her whenever you have a chance to, whenever priority is passed to you. That's not within the damage step or something like that. Her secondary effect is also pretty good in terms of fetching you more traps. The only thing a little weird about that is you can kind of miss time with it, because she has to, for her to get her effect to set a trap, you have to chain directly to the trap that you're activating. So, for example, let's say I activate Floodgate Trap Hole, and she's on the board. Now, normally you would think her effect to get in her trap would happen right away, but it doesn't because you have to pass priority to your opponent for them to respond to Floodgate Trap Hole. If they activate something else, if they activate, say, not Solemn Judge, if they activate maybe a impermanence or something in response and target a monster or something on the board. Now, technically, Lady Labyrinth has missed her timing to activate her effect to set a trap card from her deck. So you have to pass forward to your opponent. If your opponent doesn't do anything, then you chain her effect right on top of the Floodgate Trap Hole. Then you'll be able to set a card from your deck face down. So I believe that's how you have to use Lady Labyrinth. So she's a little tricky in that sense. But still, very powerful card. Her other effects when you have a face down card, she's basically like a Jagroon. She can't be targeted, can't be destroyed by battle, or I think she can be targeted. Let me just read it real quick just to make sure. Cannot be destroyed by card effects, and yeah, cannot target cards. Yeah, you can't target with the card effects, and cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So really good. Really hard to actually deal with. Her built-in protection, really nice there, and almost 80% of the time you'll have a card set face down. So She'll almost always provide some protection. Pretty good against Castria, just because they the only really way they can beat her is to just clash into her or make something that's bigger. Otherwise, they have no way of really just getting her off the board, other than maybe like using kaiju's or something else. But yeah, playing just two copies of her. Um, Her effects are kind of hard once per turn sort of effects. So I don't believe you'll be able to summon two of her during the same turn. But um, we played two just to see a little bit of redundancy, but also not to clog up our hands. And she's just kind of a secondary boss, like win condition for us, boss monster. So she's not super important to the deck, but she does provide a little bit of help there. And that's really it for the labyrinth stuff. I haven't really tested any other labyrinth card in the deck yet, so I really can't provide too much commentary on that yet. When I do get around, maybe I'll try it out. But for now, play two of her. This card is kind of a flex spot here. Lord of Heavenly Prison. Now he's kind of serves the same purpose as Lady Labyrinth, but I decided to kind of, instead of playing like three copies of her or something like that, I kind of break it up a little bit. And he has the nice added bonus of protecting your back row when you do reveal him, and he does provide a little bit of resource recovery by setting cards, and he's also a nice body 3000 beater right here. So we have a couple of 3000 beaters, just to kind of help us push, control the board, because most of our monsters are really weak, and we kind of have to rely on our extra deck to get really powerful monsters out. And these are kind of like not really like unconditional beaters, but they have a bit of conditions, but their conditions are easily met in our deck, so they're kind of nice in that sense. So you could potentially just play two Heavenly, or just two Lady, or 101, or just don't play them at all. The options are there for you to decide. For me right now, this is what I'm going to test out. I don't really care too much about his back row protection ability, because honestly, your Traptrix monsters kind of already do that a little bit. So it's his protection effect is kind of redundant, but his effect to get a big beater and set a card from your deck is also really nice. So yeah, that's what we got for the sort of our big boss monsters. Alright, so onto kind of just generic stuff here. Triple Ash Blossom, still pretty good card. Not good in every matchup, but relatively good enough to still be played at either 2 or 3 copies. So we have the rooms in our deck, and this kind of helps us go second, because we're not always going to win a die roll, but our deck really likes to go first. So this card helps us go second a little bit. A little bit of hand traps there. Alright, so now we're going to get into the actual Traptrix cards and the ratios and stuff like that. Alright, so the first card is Burika. So she's pretty cool. Really like her. Opening up with her is pretty good. If not, if you don't open up with her, having her in your deck is also nice, because you can do some tricks with Sarah by summoning her during your opponent's turn with Sarah, banishing a special summon monster. It's a little bit of tricks like that. Or if you have her in your graveyard and you have Traphotia, the new Trapho card right here, you can banish this from your graveyard, summon her from your graveyard, and then she can act as kind of like a temporary Farfa, which is really good. Like it really, she provides a lot of interruption in terms of being a monster rather than through traps. So if your opponent has something like, let's say they have, I don't know, Royal Decree, or they have a Denko Sekka or something like that, this will at least allow you to kind of interact with your opponent's monster through using monster effects rather than your trap effects. So Boudica is really nice. And she also searches out for your field spell being very powerful card in the deck. It helps you swarm the board. It helps you get a lot of advantage and get the ball rolling. So yeah, I think 2 to 3 copies of hers is kind of the way to go right now. I really do like her, seeing her in my hand, just to summon and search for the field spell, or having her in my deck or in my graveyard to do sort of tricks with Sarah or tricks with the Trapple Tia. Alright, next off is our extender and our back row protection. Not super duper important in the deck, but it is nice when you do need an additional body on the board to make some plays. If you do use her as a extender, her quick effect, she does lock you into insects and plants, I believe. Let me just double check on that before I give you misinformation. Yeah, yeah, insects or plant monsters from the extra deck only. So you can still special summon like Lady Labyrinth and Heavenly Lord from your hand, but from your extra deck you're locked into insects and plants only, I believe. Yeah, which is not really a huge deal. What you want to use her for, namely, is to use her during your opponent's turn. Um, so you're rarely using her on your turn. You want to keep her in your hand and if you have a Sarah on the board, it's kind of nice. So what you can do is if you have Sarah right here, for example, and you had this in your hand, and your opponent activates something, or you want to do something kind of cool, you activate her, special summon her. Sarah starts a chain link. Then you can pull out Pradika from your deck you can get like a trap card from your deck, like a Hotia or something like that. Set it, activate that, trigger Sarah again, then bring out the Pradika. So stuff like that. It's very like the combo lines are not always clear, and it's kind of somewhat situational at times, but it's just some cool tricks you can do, and I really like doing that. I really like just being able to activate Sarah's ability to fetch a trap and whatnot during my opponent's turn whenever I on demand, and or if they don't do anything, they leave monsters on the board. You can just summon her on your opponent's turn, your turn. You have just a body just to be able to um, uh, exceed away or link away, or if your opponent says they try to heavy storm you, or sorry, not heavy storm you, they Harpy Feather Duster you or something like that. You can activate this in response to a Harpy's Feather Duster, summon her, and her secondary effect will protect your back row for that one destruction for that one particular time. So that's another good combat. I wouldn't say combat trick, but I guess another utility that you can use her for. Now, I mentioned in the video, I don't know how to pronounce her name, honestly. It's some sort of arachnid, I guess. So she's some sort of spider. As you can see, she has a bit of like webs around it. And honestly, the cards from the structure deck are actually really, really good. Some of the other structure decks have quality issues, printing issues, miscuts, and crap like that. But honestly, the foiling from this particular structure deck and just the card quality control has been absolutely fantastic. Like every card I've seen looks really good. I did have a really weird one. I bought 3 of them, but 2 of my cards have been lighter, and 1 card was a little bit darker. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera. You probably can't. But that's the only real thing I've seen. It's more noticeable on my like Rafflesia. Let me see if I can actually pull it out if I have it somewhere. Actually, I don't have it on me right now. But yeah, some of the border was a little bit darker, and then the other 2 were a little bit lighter. But that's nothing like crazy. I think one might be a Euro print, and the other is just like a normal American print. So I think that's what happened there. But it's a little weird how that happens. So, anyways, your next best monster here is Marmello. Yeah, she's just like the ace of the deck. She does 2 major things for you. She gets you your trap. Generally, when you summon her, you want to start comboing. You want to search for Hotia. Hotu, I don't know how you pronounce that, but this is generally what you search for, and then you link her away for Sarah, set this, activate that, and then go from there. So kind of like your basic combo there. Otherwise, when she's in the graveyard, or if you special summon her, she activates. She acts as a MST, and it's a mandatory effect, so it always activates even if your opponent doesn't have anything on the board, which can kind of be relevant sometimes, especially if you have a Sarah on the board and you need to proc Sarah's other effect, and you just have no other monsters. If you somehow just get her on the board or special summon her, her effect will automatically proc or activate, and you'll be able to trigger Sarah right after that. So that's the main purpose of the Marmellos here. I had these for a long time. I heard they're going up in price. These are supers from the Astro packs, but had these for a long time in my old hat trick deck, I guess, or hat deck. But yeah, just really, really fantastic card there. And then next off we have Mantis here. Mantis is also really good. There's a couple of weird things you can do with Mantis, but in general, Mantis will search for um, basically your good Traptrix monsters. With her, I usually like searching for Arachne over here, because then you can search this and then activate this and get two on the board. So that's kind of like the easiest like combo line if you just need two monsters. But this does lock you into insects and plants. But in case you just needed some bodies on the board, or you activate her and you can grab a Diania, grab another Mamelo or something, set up for next turn, or you can grab Purika for the next turn and summon her. Or if you have her and you have the field spell, which is probably the thing I'll get into, but I'll digress just a little bit here. So, for example, if you had the field spell on the board, you summon Mantis, you activate her effect, you search for Mamelo, and then you can use an extra normal summon from the garden, summon Mamelo, search for a trap. So, based off of that interaction alone, that nets you two cards just using Mantis right there. So you get a Mamelo off of Mantis, and you get a trap hole off of Mamelo. So she can become like a sort of a pseudo pot of greed in your deck, assuming you have like Traptrix Garden or something like that on the board, which is really, really, really cool and really nice, especially since trap decks in general have a very difficult time in generating advantage, because we're generally pretty slow and our trap cards are kind of obviously pretty hard to search. But yeah, that's kind of like the cool thing about Mantis, and then Mamelo, and then having your the Garden out, and being able to kind of generate a bunch of advantage with just one card. All right, next off, Diania. I saw some builds playing one. I definitely recommend playing two. Like, this card has been pretty fantastic. If you want in your hand, it's fine. It doesn't really matter too much. But you kind of always want an additional copy in your deck for some particular combo lines where if you have Hotia here, and you activate this, and you ditch a trap card, and you have Sarah on the board, you can trigger Sarah, bring out Diania, and then reset the trap hold card that you ditched or something like that, and it just provides a lot of value for you there. So I think two Diania is really great, and she's still kind of like your bread and butter recovery, bread and butter way to kind of get additional monsters. You can actually use her to special summon her onto the board, so there's no restriction. And then that's another thing about this deck is that most of their secondary effects are hard ones per turn, but their normal summon effects are not hard ones per turn, which is really interesting. When the cards were designed back then, I don't believe the designer of Traptrix was going to think about people being able to normal summon more than one Traptrix a turn. So, for example, if you had the field spell, right, and you had like double Mantis on the board or double Mantis in your hand, you can actually normal summon Mantis, add a Traptrix monster, then normal summon another Mantis, add another Traptrix monster. So that's kind of neat right there, and it's just something that I guess maybe is an oversight by the designer, or maybe it's just something that he intended. So if Ultimate Offering ever came off the ban list, you can just kind of spam that. You can like play triple Mantis in one turn and like search 3 times, and I guess they're kind of like gadgets in that sense, where they keep replacing themselves, and as long as you're able to normal summon. But yeah, so double Diania is what I definitely did recommend. And then let me bring up some cards that I sort of cut from the deck that I tried out and I didn't really particularly like it too much, but I did want to mention it. Sorry, this is like my pile of cards I have here. Maybe I'll mention these two right here. So I'm not playing these two anymore. I tried them out. I guess I never really tried out Gen, but Gen is just really greedy. She's like great late game, I guess, but in early game, she doesn't really provide anything for us, so I just didn't really like playing her. Visculo here. Visculo can be good. If you do play her, I think you should just play her at 1. Most of the time, I think she was just kind of dead in my hand from what I've noticed when I was test playing. So I decided to just completely cut her out for now. And I don't think I've missed it. She's good if you can summon her off of Sarah, and she can kind of provide you like a bit of an advantage later. But when you draw her, she's not that great. Yeah, she can extend your combos. She can send a set card to the graveyard and special summon herself, but it's not really ideal. She's like so. Um, and for you to even use her secondary effect, you have to have no cards in your back row and then to be able to use her effects. So it's all kind of situational. All of her effects are good, but they're all very situational to use. So I decided not to use her at all. And I guess there's one more other Traptrix that perhaps I want to mention here. And I guess the last, oh, I guess here you go. The other two. Um, Aatrox is cool, but we have better things to do with our normal summon. Um, and almost no one's gonna negate your trap hole cards anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So that doesn't really help at all. Um, yeah, it's cool. You can activate them from your hand, but that doesn't really matter. I think either. Uh, like you're not gonna really need to activate Balmus Trap Hole from your hand. You can just set it. The only card that this works really well with is let me see, Hotia, I guess, because then you just activate this while paying the cost. At least I believe so. So just activates immediately. So that's the only real use I think she has. So not that great. And then obviously Neptintis. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She is a decent card, but I don't like drawing her because if you draw her, you normal her. She's only 800 defense, or sorry, 800 attack. Like you want to pull her out with Sarah, then she becomes good. But then it's like same thing with Vesculo is like you just don't want to draw her. You draw her and it's just gonna break your hands. So I decided to just completely cut her out. There's no reason for me to actually try to play her because if I do normal summon her, I'm just going to Sarah and she's just gonna be in the grave. And it's just kind of weird. So I don't really like neither of these cards in the deck. So they don't really provide much. So that's that there. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to our spells, and then we'll go to our traps. So, all right. So we're playing two of the new field spell here. So, I do like. I've been playing one for a while, but I decided to try to bump it up to two just to see if it's gonna do any better. Because occasionally when I play one and it gets nuked, it's sad that you don't have another copy in your deck. So we're just gonna try out two. The reason I was playing one because it is searchable with Pudika and you're playing 3 Pudika. But I figured if we do draw this card, we hard draw it, it's actually not bad to have in our hand because we just activate it and then just normal and get more card advantage that way. So, I guess if we happen to open a Pudika and this card in our hand, it's not too bad. You can still normal some Pudika, search for a second copy, giving you a little bit of a card advantage in that sense. Or if you happen to draw this and you happen to draw, sorry, I was looking at the wrong card, Mantis or something like that, you happen to just open with these two, it's not bad either. You can activate this, summon Mantis, search for Mamelo or Pudika, add a second copy. So it just enables you to be able to consistently get like 2 bodies on the board easily. Or you summon her, summon Mantis, search for Mamelo, link her away for Sarah, then summon Mamelo, and that way you're just generating a ton of advantage. So that's what the garden is there for, and it's really helpful. It also has a protection, provides protection to one of your monsters from battle. That sometimes is relevant. The third effect is kind of like a samurai asceticism, where you kind of swap your card from your graveyard to your deck and stuff like that, or graveyard in hand. That I haven't really used too much, but it's there in case you need to do that. So kind of nice card in that sense. All right, so this is just a totally optional card. Don't have to play this. You're probably better playing like a pot or something. But I thought I'd try out one. I was playing 2 for a while, but after a while, like sometimes it just sat in my hand because I needed the trap cards to be set and to do stuff with the trap cards, and I couldn't really discard the trap cards. If I discard a trap card, the monster, I risk not drawing something. So I decided just to play one of her, or sorry, not one of her, one of the draw cards. Honestly, you're probably better off playing like Triple Tactics Thrust, Triple Tactics Talent, something else, I decided to just play this, or Pot of Prosperity, or Pot of Extravagance, anything else that might be a little bit better, or even Pot of Desires even. But for the sake of like playing Traptrix theme, I decided just to play one copy of it. And then Call by the Graves, same thing, just kind of flexible spot. You can play the other cards I just mentioned. Uh, you can still play Call by the Graves. I think it's still a good card. Ash doesn't really hurt you that much because most of your search abilities are free anyway. So if they ash you, it's like cool. You +1, so not a huge deal. So I think you're better off playing Triple Tech talent over Call by the Grave. I have one talent somewhere in my other decks, so for now this is just gonna be Call by the Graves, and that's essentially it for the spells. You only really play 4 spells, um, and that's all you really need, I guess. All right, onto the traps. This is where the other chunk of the deck is, and we'll go through some options and choice here. So, first off, triple impermanence is pretty good in the deck. It's our other way of going second. It helps us going second. It also helps us get out Lady Labyrinth turn 1 if we really wanted to. Well, at least on our opponent's turn. And overall, just a solid card. Like if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you know how good this card is. Don't really have to explain, say much about it. You can search this off if you have Lady Labyrinth on the field. You can even set this from Lady Labyrinth, so acts as another form of negation. So overall, yeah, just a great trap card to have in the deck, even though it's not a whole card. All right, I'm playing one Ice Barrier. I'm just trying it out. Still like it. You could bump this up to 2, maybe 1. Somewhere around there, I think is good. Or cut it completely. I'll show you my next card here. Also on that topic, I have 2 Compulse right now too. So these are flex spots right here. I believe these 3 cards are flex spots. I know some Traptrix decks like to play triple Torrential Tribute, which you could play. I don't really care for Tribute too much, because sometimes, at least with the particular extra deck build I'm playing, I don't want to play Torrential Tribute because I don't want to blow up my own monster. I don't really always go into a Traptrix Exceeds or Links, so Torrential Tribute is kind of detrimental sometimes in keeping your monsters alive. But Compulse is kind of nice where you just interrupt like a combo piece or a boss monster or something like that, and it's super chainable. So that's what's nice about these cards. They're just like super chainable. You can just use them whenever and then get their effects and not have to care too much. Because your whole cards, they're kind of conditional activation where permanence and Ice Dragon and Compulse, they're more or less unconditional chainable trap cards that they don't really have any real conditions other than your opponent that needs a monster or needs something in their graveyard. Then you'll be able to just Compulse and use. It works really well with Lady Labyrinth. All right, next off, triple Brigadine. This with any Traptrix helps you to kind of start off your combo, start off your plays on your turn 1, which is really nice. And with this particular build that I'm playing, I'll show you my extra deck in a second. It's really kind of important to have a ton of bodies on the board, and Brigadine is kind of nice for that. And you can even cut out 1, or you don't necessarily have to play them at all. But I've liked them. I definitely really have like it. Every time I open up with this card, it feels really good. All right, and the rest of this is, I think it's just the whole cards here. So next off, we have 2 of the new trap card, Hotia, or Traptrix Whole Hoti. I don't know how you pronounce this thing. Basically, it's like a Burgundy, but the only reason we're playing 2 is 1. It's searchable off of Mellow. It's searchable off of Sarah, so we don't really need to play 3 copies. And they're also hard ones per turn for both their effects. So, I don't really want to have 3 of them in my hand or like 2 of them in my hand and only being able to use 1. I'd rather just have them in my deck or have 1 in my hand, 1 in my deck, be able to kind of like search them and use them. And because they're hard ones per turn, it's kind of hard to justify 3. But it's up to you. If you want to see this in your opening hand, then sure, go ahead and play 3. But you run the risk of drawing an additional 1 and just having a really weird bricky hand. So I think 2 is a good number. and uh, they're kind of recyclable anyways, so I don't think you need more than two, but that's just my opinion there. All right, the rest of this is just a couple of different trap holes. Now, this is just essentially all personal preference. I really don't don't know where to like say what's the correct ratio um, of what you should be playing. Me personally, I think Bombless has been the weakest. I might just take out Bombless and just play a Nightmare instead, a second Nightmare. Um, and then this card is really good. I do like this card. I do like. I wish this came in hollow in the structure deck. Unfortunately, it didn't. But this card is actually pretty good. As long as your opponent special summons a monster this turn, you don't have to really use it the moment they special summon. You can use this a little bit later. And the kind of weird interaction is like if you hit something like say a Mirror Jade. So if your opponent has a Mirror Jade, they use their effect or whatever. They attack you. You can activate this, and then you can destroy the Mirror Jade. It goes to the graveyard, and then you can banish the Mirror Jade. And that way, Mirror Jade does its effect when it leaves the board to blow up the board doesn't trigger. Um, how it works is the it would trigger in the graveyard when it goes to the graveyard because this card destroys it first before it banishes it. Um, so it goes to the graveyard. It's not like Trap Hole. Trap Hole is a little bit different. Trap Hole, like if Bombless Trap Hole banishes it essentially instead of sending it to the graveyard. This card sends it to the graveyard, then banishes it, where Trap Hole just directly banishes it. So if you Trap Hole, Bombless Trap Hole a Mirror Jade, Mirror Jade will blow up your board. But if you Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare, the Mirror Jade it won't. So since it goes to the graveyard, it wants to activate its blowing up ability on the graveyard, but then you banish it, so it's no longer in the place where the ability would have activated. So, for example, Mirror Jade, for example, would have activated its blowing up ability in the graveyard, but then it's being moved from the graveyard to the banish zone. So it kind of sort of misses its opportunity to activate its effect. So that's just a very weird interaction to keep in mind of. I was just playing with my friend, and he summoned out Mirror Jade, and then we were like, "Oh, how does this shit work?" So we had to look it up, and it's just funny because we're both judges. I'm like, I don't think it activates, but we have to make sure. We have to look up a bit of the ruling, and then, yeah, it turns out it doesn't activate. So it's pretty interesting there. So that's just a tidbit for me. Floodgate Trap Hole is cool. It's just pretty generic there. Pretty bad against Branded. I probably side this out against Branded because if you flip their monsters face down, they can still fuse with it. So not really good. Really good against Link decks. Really good against Synchro decks. Good against Exceed decks. But yeah, not so great against Fusion decks. So keep that in mind. This one's pretty good. The only issue is it's a War Solemn Strike, but still for a Trap Hole card it's not bad, right? And then this one, the Gravedigger's Trap Hole, can sometimes be dead, but at the same time it can be pretty good. I've won a few games where just my opponent taking 2,000 damage actually kind of matters. So it's a very punishing card when used correctly against your opponent. So I still like it, and all this is just basically just different trap holes for Rafflesia to kind of use or for you to search out. But like I said, I think Bombless is probably the weakest. You can just replace it with something else. But for now, I am playing Bombless. Maybe I want to switch this out for like a space-time trap hole instead. I think that might be a little bit better. But for now, that's what I got. So that's what I'm kind of playing right now. And then yeah, just Nightmare. Nightmare is just a weaker Solemn Strike. So yeah, 5 trap holes plus the 2 here. So that gives you a total of 7 trap holes. So that should give you plenty of stuff to work with, and that's just kind of all, up to you how you want to build your trap layout. But I do recommend at least the triple impermanence for sure. I think that's a good number there, and then double Hotia, and I think everything else can be sort of flexible based on your play style and based on what you want to do with the deck. So yeah, all right, guys, let's move on to the I guess the extra deck. And that, I guess I'll move on to the extra deck and kind of explain to you how I built my deck and the traps that I selected. So first off, Zeus here. Not much to say about it. Zeus is still a fantastic boss monster. Kind of your way out to a lot of situations. So Zeus. All right. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. So um, for me, I find myself having like a ton of monsters on the board. Sometimes I can get 4 bodies on the board on turn one, or even 3. So I decided, what do I do with 3 bodies, right? So um, here we go, right? We go into um, Terror Knight, and then if we can go into Tellarlight, um, Telemiles here, we can, if you wanted to, you can go into Diamond. But you can't do this during your first turn, obviously. But Diamond's an option there. But what we really wanted to go into our first turn is essentially go into the Cyber Dragon Infinity Nova here, and that's been pretty good. It's been a relatively decent boss monster. Or if you're going second and your opponent can't stop this combo, you suck up a monster and then you run over a monster and you negate something. So it's still a relatively good package. It is very costly on your extra deck though, because it is like 4 different monsters that you kind of have to use. But because I'm playing the Brigadine and the Hotia and a bunch of extenders, it's really easy to get 3 bodies on the board. Obviously, we had Shockmaster. I'd play Shockmaster, but yeah, this package is just fun. And if you don't want to play the Cyber Dragon Nova, you can also play another package here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. You can do this. This is another tricky package that I don't think I mentioned in my other video, but you can also do this to the Randall and the Joel and Lockbird package. So what you do is you make sure you have 3 materials on her, right? During your opponent's turn, then you can use her ability, summon the Randall on your opponent's turn. If they like draw or whatever, activate the Joel and Lock, or activate the Randall and then activate Joel and Lockbird. And basically what that does is, if you're going first, you can do this, and your opponent will have 0 cards in their hand, and you will also have 0 cards. But for the most part, you'll have a 24 beater and maybe a couple of trap cards face down. Hopefully, right? If you're going first, I assume you would set everything. You may have a Sarah or something like that, and then you go into Joel and Lockbird and Randall, and that's kind of like an instant win, instant way to cheese your opponent. So that's just like another combo you can go for. Now that obviously requires a sort of a different deck build. You will have to play Joel and Lockbird in either your side or your main deck, and then you'll have to make space for the Randall, or just cut out the Cyber Dragons and just play the Randall instead. So that's just another way you can build this particular deck. So just however you like. All right, for the rest of the cards here, Time Thief Redoer, a really powerful card in this deck. We have so many trap monsters that you can easily make Redoer have like double traps under it. That's obviously not ideal, but you can totally do this and have a Wing Blast on demand whenever you want, and that's a very strong effect to have. And so I think Time Thief Redoer is sort of a must in the deck there. Sorry, I'm just gonna leave this over here. Babushka. At first I wasn't really playing it, but after test playing a little bit, I think I do like Babushka. Certain decks have an extremely hard time answering Babushka, and also it's kind of sort of a Zeus on demand. If you have Babushka in attack mode, you attack into like a defense monster or something that. Since Babushka, when he's in attack mode, he can't be destroyed by card effects, I believe. Let me just read that to double check. Yeah, so you can't be destroyed by card effects, by your opponent's card effects, so you can attack into a defense monster, and then main phase 2, slap a Zeus on top of Babushka. So that's just another thing to do there. So I kind of like that. I did cut out... what did I cut out here? I think I cut out the Dweller. Since Tier Elements is gone, I don't think Dweller is as necessary. And we also have Constellar Diamonds, so I guess if we really need like Graveyard Hate or whatever, we have that. So I cut out Dweller because I didn't have quite enough space in the side deck. But like as you'll see the rest of the side deck, it's kind of optional as to what you how you want to build the side deck out. Oh, sorry, not the side deck, the extra deck. But yeah, the rest of this is just some more utility cards here. All right, so we've got Rafflesia. I definitely think she's at least one copy in your deck, no matter what, is really good. Her first effect is actually pretty relevant, where your opponent can't target your other um, monsters. Basically, her Veil effect. Her Veil effect is really good. They can't attack other monsters, or they can't attack your Sarah without attacking her. They can't target Sarah with like removal without getting through her first. So that's really nice. But if you have two of them on the board, then you kind of lock your opponent out of like destroying your stuff, but which is really nice. But there's very rare opportunities for you to actually bring out two Rafflesia, so that's why I'm just playing the one. Extra deck space is pretty tight, so as you can kind of see. Next off, I think this is the newest card, Pingukula. So she's kind of neat. She's supposed to work really well with the Bricula here, or sorry, Pudica. So she works really well with Pudica. If you have her on the board and you Pudica your opponent's monster, it basically becomes a banish the monster, because that monster becomes a material for Pudica while she's on the board. So kind of nice. Same thing with Alo Maris. I don't even know how to pronounce her. Same thing here. If you have you use Pudica's effect, then you can activate Aloe and attach material or special summon that banished monster to your board instead. So that's kind of nice there. So a couple of things for you to do. I think for her, she's the weaker of the Link monsters. So if I were to cut, I would probably cut her. Maybe even play two copies of her, because she's good. Having her and Sarah, like you summon her, activate her to search and get Sarah's trigger ability off. So that's also another good line of play there. But yeah, she next off, yeah, like I mentioned, this one's probably the weakest of the Traptrix Exceed monsters. Last off here, or first off with the Link monsters, we have Boar-Sword. Boar-Sword very strong. Kind of our way to OTK our opponent and push for damage. We get a bunch of bodies on the board really easily. We don't we straight up can just use like 4 monsters on the board or whatever, and then just go for Boar-Sword when we need to. So yeah, I tried playing Axis Code Talker. It doesn't work too well in this particular deck, namely because we don't have that many different types of elementals. I think all of our cards are basically Earth types, all of our Link monsters, so he doesn't really work too well with the Traptrix package. So I decided to cut Access Code for the Boar-Sword instead. Alright, then next off we have the new another new Traptrix monster here. This one, it's not that great either, but it's nice. It's kind of like a smaller, it's like a baby Access Code, I guess, because it does boost your attack power and it does negate and destroy something. So it's like a miniature baby Access Code Talker. It probably won't OTK anyone, but it's nice to be able to boost your Traptrix monsters by 1,000 attack points each, and you know, kind of push for damage that way. So yeah, I mean, why not? You know, one copy isn't gonna hurt you. All right, Kularia here. She's a little bit weaker too. She's on the older side of the Traptrix support. She's definitely a little bit weaker. You could probably cut her and you won't really miss her. Yes, she's value if you have her on the board. She can continually give you monsters. She can continually reset your trap holes. But the times that you would go into her is more rare than not. She's kind of like a win more card. If you're already ahead, then yeah, you can slap her down and secure the win. Make sure that you will always out resource your opponent, but at the same time, she's just not that great in general. She requires a lot of protection in order for her to sort of get value. If you can't protect her, then she's kind of like eh. So just something to look out. And obviously we have the last two Sarah. You have to play 2 for sure. 3 copies is probably preferred. I just couldn't make any concessions in my extra deck at the moment, so I'm playing 2 copies, and at least through my test playing, a majority of time I've only gone through 2. There are times where I do want 3, but I don't know. It's one of those things that you as a player just have to decide if you want to go 3 and just want to sit on her more, or go for the other exceeds and make your um, extra deck more toolboxy. That's up to you. For now, I'm just gonna try out 2, and I think 2's worked okay so far. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's worked well enough. All right. Last off, we're gonna talk about the side deck. So triple Nibiru. I think Nibiru is definitely playable in the format again, with tier elements mostly gone. Nibiru can actually wreck a lot of decks now, especially against Castria. You can just summon Nibiru and give him a token, and you know, not much to really say about that. Triple Raigeki, this is kind of a flex spot right now. You can play whatever you want. You don't really need that much back row removal, but there's certain cards that you need to kill, like maybe Denko Seka or something like that. Raigeki helps you in that sense. You can also play evenly match. I I like evenly match going second. Obviously, Raigeki going second kind of does the same thing, but or Lightning Storm, I guess. So you can do Lightning Storm, evenly match, or Raigeki. The choice is yours. Kind of a flex spot right now. I got these from the structure deck, so I might as well just put them in the deck for now. One Harpies. Still, we don't really play any back row hate because our Marmelo already acts as back row hate, so we don't really need it. Mystic Mind is gone, so that's kind of nice for us. So, this is in case someone plays a World Decree, or maybe like a anti-spell fragrance or something like that, I guess, right? But yeah, same thing with the next two Cosmic Cyclones. This is probably better, honestly, against like a mirror match, maybe. I expect to see a lot of Traptrix decks, so this might help against the mirror match to get rid of some like impermanences and stuff. Because obviously, trap hole cards aren't going to really work well against the Traptrix monsters themselves. So you probably want to side out all the trap hole cards and start putting in graveyard hate or back row hate. And then next off, we got triple D barrier. Still pretty good. I just couldn't bring myself to main it quite yet, so I decided just to go ahead and side it for now. If you're playing against Traptrix or something else, you can side out or trap holes and start slapping these in. Really good in that sense. So obviously it won't stop Sarah from coming out, but at least it will stop a lot of their Exceed plays. So barrier still really good. Good against Branded Fusion. Good against Castria. If you call Exceeds, they're kind of locked out of their Exceed plays. So still a really, really relevant card. And you could actually main deck this card, I believe, if you wanted to, instead of like Compulse or something. But for now, this is what I got. So I'm playing that inside for now. And then last off, just the Triple Solemn Judgment. Triple Solemn this card is mostly used to stop your back row hate, someone playing Dango Seka or Lightning Storm. It also helps protect your monsters from those cards. So I don't think you really need them in the main deck. I think they're nice to have in the side deck. And yeah, playing Triple Solemn there. And yeah, that basically wraps up the deck profile. I think it's a pretty solid, fun deck to play. I definitely think this deck needs a little bit more work on. And there's a couple of different ways for you to build the deck. For me personally, I kind of like playing with my extra deck as a toolbox, so that's why I kind of gear the deck towards, and kind of if that fails, then I'm using these as my win condition, my boss monsters, and then the traps, all the traps and are kind of personal preference, player preference in that sense. But that's how I have my current trap lineup right now. So 20 monsters, 16 traps, 4 spells. I think that's pretty good. Obviously, I mentioned stuff like triple tactic talents, triple tactic thrusts. You can play those. Part of arrogance, part of extravagance, part of prosperity. As some additional draw cards, part of desires. You got that. You can play more of the Traptrix allure. You can play floodgates even if you wanted to. There's what's it, dimensional karma barrier thing. I think I've seen a little bit. Yeah, but there's plenty of other cards you can play. Torrential Tribute that I mentioned. It just depends on what you want to do with the deck and how you want to gear towards it. So Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I know it's been a long one, but Traptrix, I thought I'd spend a little bit more time with them, kind of explain to you my card choices, give you guys some ideas, and hopefully something for you guys to work off with. I know it's been a very, very popular deck. Went to Frankenson, and like one of my friends sold out of it, so I had to go to another booth to try to find some. And yeah, they've been selling hotcakes, and I think the deck in general has some pretty good reprints in them. If you haven't seen the deck list, it's got like really good reprints like Evenly Match, Ash Blossom. That kind of already pays for the deck itself. So if you can find a deck for around $10 to $12, I'd say it's a pretty good price. $15, you're pushing it a little bit, and anything above that is just they're you're getting scalped there. So check out maybe your Walmarts or maybe your Targets too if your local shop doesn't have it, or if you're okay on spending on shipping, you can also do that. But anyways, guys, that's it. I think I rambled on long enough, and I'll see you guys next time. Maybe I'll have some gameplay of this deck either on Edo Pro or in real life, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. See you next time.